All right, so we are here today with the first episode of Season 3 of the Lone Guitarist podcast. In this episode, Ben is going to be interviewing the great French guitarist Thomas Viloteau. Ben, what are some things that we can expect from this episode?
You're going to see a lot of really cool, just two dorks talking about guitars and studying guitar, traveling. We even talk about watches, which we both really enjoy. And I think you should just watch it and let me know what your favorite part is.
Let us know in the comments down below and enjoy the interview.
Okay, welcome everybody. We are starting the second season of the Lone Guitarist podcast. I'm very excited for my guest today. Won a bunch of awards, teaches at a very famous guitar school, is French, so he's automatically cooler. He has a cat. Thomas Viloteau, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Ben. Thank you for having me. Yeah, two cats.
Two cats now?
Yeah.
On your website, it lists all of your awards and publications, and then it also lists your cat.
Oh, no way.
So you need to add your second cat.
Yeah. Wow. Maybe that's an old bio then.
Well, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing nowadays?
Good. I'm on vacation now because I've been working a lot this year. So concerts have been, it's back, and I've been traveling more. That was nice. But it just feels like, I don't know, pre-COVID, honestly, a little bit. Even though I just got it, and my wife as well. So we just got sick a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It was difficult, right? For a couple of years, but for everybody. But everything got canceled, and. But at the same time, it was nice too. I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have been like, it's been nice not having to travel or, like drive or commute, and just spend time with your family and at home on projects that, working for yourself,
Absolutely. So you're on break now from teaching. You teach at Peabody.
Yeah.
What is that experience like? You've been there for several years now.
4 years now, yeah.
Yeah. What's that experience like?
It's great. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, It's a huge conservatory. My coworkers are amazing, so that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And we all, work very well together, so that's been very nice. I think we're really trying to make a place for students that's as positive an experience as possible, where they can learn as much as possible. And we try to make everything for the students, to do everything for the students so that they have the best experience possible during their studies here, I think.
But would you say that, the experience that you're trying to give your kids at school is maybe a little bit different than the experience that you grew up with playing guitar?
Yes and no, because, I've had many teachers, and many great teachers. I've been very lucky that my parents were allowing me to travel so much to see teachers. It was, pre-YouTube, so you had to really go find information, at the source,
Yeah.
So I was very lucky, and this experience, it was all, there were teachers that were all very different, I never went to just like one way to see the guitar, the music technique and things like that. So I have kind of this melting pot of information, that I grew up with. So there's definitely, but it's just like being a parent too. What I'm imagining is, you have things that, you wish were different from what you grew up with, so you try to change that and at the same time keep the good things, and,
Yeah.
So I think it's the exact same thing for everybody and for every generation of teacher,
Yeah. Let's rewind a little bit since you're talking about your education. You started playing guitar when you were about 12 is what I read?
12, yeah.
And what was that experience like? Well, I mean, obviously, a couple years go by, and then you start competing and winning competitions, and then your career really takes off. What was it like being because a lot of the guitarists that I interview, even the big ones, really don't start playing guitar till much later because they pick up the electric guitar or the acoustic guitar and just like learn rock music or jazz, and then don't discover classical music until sometimes they're college age. So what was it like starting at 12?
So in France, 12 is actually late. I was starting very late. Most of my friends, French people, they start when they're 6, 5, 6, 7. This is the normal age. 12 there, it's like a little bit older. So I was never starting to, it's a different mentality in Europe, in general, I guess. I mean, I'm talking about France because France and Spain. When you put your kids in a school of music, in a conservatory, it's usually with the goal of, like being very good at that, and it's not really the culture of just like have fun with it or learn things through music, like because music teaches you a lot of things, and I think that's great, but definitely there, like you can put your kid in the conservatory, and if they don't do really well after 1 year, they have exams, and conservatory is free at so that also explains. Right. They kick you out, if you're not good enough, right? So I mean, there's obviously like music schools, but usually kids you don't study for 10 years, just to have fun, it's just like you're serious right from the start. So when you start at 12, it's almost like saying already you're never going to make a career out of it because it's too late, You've already lost 6 years, against people who've started when they were 6, like there's no way you're going to catch that, up. So
Right. Imagine starting at 22, which is what I did.
Yeah. So, but it's a mentality, right? Of course, it's completely fake. It's not true. Of course not. There's so many examples. But that's kind of the mentality there, I guess, which I hope changes a little bit, and it's probably changed now. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking about when you were talking about teaching at Peabody. I was thinking, well, you're a younger staff member, and the guitar world is changing very rapidly. More people than ever are playing the classic guitar, which is wonderful, but also it requires like sort of, I think, a departure from like the old school mentality of like, like beating somebody over the head with it. Like that doesn't really work with this younger generation.
No, but does it really work with anyone? This is a sort of mental harassment, that
yeah.
Happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I've experienced it for sure, and seen students cry and things like that. So, but that is like it's not pleasurable. It makes the whole experience very difficult, and you can also resent the instrument and music in general. That produces amazing results. There is no question about this. Right. For the few students that actually go through this and have the willpower to actually, overcome this harassment, it's amazing. But then this all destroys, like, a lot of other very nice, talented students, that would have probably made their lives with music,
Right.
So I don't know if but I don't know, like, I mean, I've seen Manuel and Julien teach a lot, and I don't think they do any of this, This is much more positive. That's why I said positive, like a positive environment. I think it's, there's negative reinforcement. We don't do like, just positive reinforcement, like right. Stuff like that. But, like, for example, my rep classes, I really try to to go away from like, okay, let's give comments of like, yeah, but that scale wasn't too clean, you should probably work on your stretches. No, let's say the same things with like a nice comment instead. I really love the phrasing here, and I think you could have done even more crescendo at the end. I would have, like.
I think it also, I think the fact that you're with two people that have been so successful in their career as teachers. I mean, Manuel is been at the top of his game as a performer for, I don't know, 45, 50 years. But as a teacher, he's been very successful.
Yeah.
And I don't think you get there with that old. And I guess the reason that I bring it up is because I see you because we're similar in age. I'll be 35 this fall. I see us as like people that straddle that line, because the teacher that I studied my master's with and still study with now, it doesn't teach like that. But I've had the older generation of that old school aggressive, like where it was almost like sink or swim, like you live or die. Like if you can't do it, it's the end of the world. Yeah. And I just think it's interesting to talk about that with a younger person. So talking about teachers, you studied with, I mean, some of the greatest players of all time. I mean, just without leaving France, we're talking about Roland Dians, Judical Parois. God, what was it? Those two people alone are just phenomenal individuals. Lots of crossover between them, but in their own right, incredible people. What was it like with those two people?
You know, it was at the same time too, so it was a little bit, it was a little tricky. Some moments I was studying with Ponce. So I started Alvaro Pierri, and then I moved to Ponce, which, you know, Alvaro Pierri is like everything free stroke, and then Alberto Ponce was everything rest strokes. I was calling Alvaro on payphones. I remember, like, I was 15 or 16, and I was like, he's telling me to do all this. What can I, you know? I was just complaining. Yeah. And then eventually I understood what he wanted me to do. But and then I started studying with Judy Kael. That was my last year with Alberto Ponce, and it carried into my years in the Paris Conservatory with Roland Dians. They were all very, very different, you know, like, obviously. But that was good for me, because I really had to kind of, you know, you have to adapt your playing to like please your teacher, basically, you know. And when you have like very different teachers who expect very different things, I was even changing fingerings, you know, like things like that, you know, in the same repertoire, you know, from one teacher to the next, you know, like I would just go and play, you know, for Ponce, I would play for Dians a certain way, and then go to Judy Kael and work, you know, like a different way, you know. So there are definitely a little bit of a schizophrenic approach to that, but, you know, taught me a lot, obviously.
But that skill, being able to change, I mean, if you're talking about a technique or a focus, right, being able to, I don't know, let's say you're going to go play for somebody, and you know that person is going to focus on time, right? Then you know, oh, let me make sure that I'm focusing on this, because when you're, you know, at any level, but especially when you're a student, it's very hard to be good at multiple things. Sometimes you're okay at one thing, right? When I was in graduate school, I was really good at singing, right? So I never had to second guess my ability to sing a line or whatever. But then I knew that if I was going to go have studio class with somebody else who was a stickler for tension in the right hand, then having to switch that. So that must have taught you a very important skill of being able to shift your focus when you needed to.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, and I think also that's why I recommend students to go and experience different teachers, you know, because as much as you love your teacher, you know, it's one individual with one set of skills, you know, and when you see, you know, like other things, you kind of have to like just open up your playing a lot, you know.
Yeah. How did you get into competition? Was it just something that you did, or was it part of the mentality of the school?
I think it was the natural progression of things, you know. There was never really a time where I even questioned not doing competitions. You know, this was kind of like the old idea that this is how you build a career, you know. And, you know, I mean, honestly, on many levels, this is how I built my career, you know. So I can't say that this wasn't true, you know. But definitely it's just one aspect, you know. I think there was kind of this dream that, you know, you just go win and then it's done, you know. You're good to go, which is not true, obviously. But
well, you use the competitions as building blocks, right? And
I mean, you know, like after a while I understood that if you win the competition, you get some cash, which is nice. It's kind of fast cash, you know. It's not. It pays rent for, you know, a few months, right? It's not like great because it's not like a salary or anything. I mean, it's nice to have, but it just goes away like that, you know.
Yeah.
And some concerts, you know. So on top of that, you know, you get the concerts too. But the concerts, they're also, I mean, the GFA is different because it's like 50 concerts, right? But like most competitions, it's like, you know, 2, 3, 4, you know. And you do those concerts and then you're done, you know. And then you feel like, you know, when you're young and you win a competition, you get this cash, you get the prize, you get like this like pride, you know. And then you come back to play a concert, you feel like this is good, you know. But it's just that one season, you know, and the next year it's another player that won the competition, you know, like that's going to do those concerts, you know. So you just kind of rotate, and if you don't work at, you know, like normal career things, networking and just, you know, like recording and, you know, like all that stuff that you don't need competitions for, this doesn't happen. So what the competition does for you is cash. It's some concerts, you know, like it's a little bit easier to get into the kind of circuit to play concerts, you know, in the US for sure with the GFA, but that's a very specific case. If you don't have that, you can do the exact same things. It just takes a little bit more time, you know, I would say, but it's basically the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you won the GFA in 2006?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Right?
And so that's, how old were you in 2006?
I was 21.
Okay. So things have changed quite a bit in terms of what I think competitions were looking for. I'm not as well versed in like the Targa competition and like those other ones, but I know that, at least nowadays, it feels like guitarists look toward the GFA in terms of the pinnacle of like, kind of like what the golden standard of concert rep or of competition rep.
I don't know if it's the actual rep that's important, or the styles, the way it's played, the way it's, you know, cohesive and built together, you know. So I don't know. I think the post that I did was actually like, it's funny because sometimes I post things, but I said I think like better now than 16 years ago or something like this. But it's because I was drinking a beer watching the finals, and 16 years ago I was stressing out and playing on that stage. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's what
I was chopping onions during the
Oh yeah. So better 16 years ago.
I have a toddler. I can't just turn on the TV and watch it for 4 hours. You know.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So let's move forward a little bit. So we're talking about competitions, and it seems like you have a very healthy way of looking at them. Like, yes, they're helpful for some people. No, you don't need them in order to be a world-class musician. And they exist sort of not in a vacuum, but they exist on one plane where it helps you. Yes, I'm so grateful for this. I love the cash. I love the tour. But that is not going to then make me, you know, Segovia, right? Because I need to then work on my career. What were some of the things that you felt career-wise, business-wise, that got you to where you are now?
So I don't know. I think the
scales, right? The fast scales got you where you are.
Yes, of course. No, it's funny because I really never understood what to do, you know, in the music business. You kind of make it for many years. I really had the goal of trying to get an agent, you know, or at least a booking agent, management of some sort. That would have been really great because I really I'm not very good at this, but I never understood that actually because I'm not very good at this is not happening, you know. I think to go through all this and to kind of like finally have that management, or, you know, like you kind of have to do it just as well by yourself first, you know, and then you kind of get like, you know, noticed, you know. I don't know, from stories that I've heard, it kind of goes this way, you know, but So I tried for, like after the GFA, I was like, okay, I'm going to spend a year in the US, just look for, management and stuff. Cause, like we have a saying in France, you beat the iron while it's red hot, and right after the GFA, sorry?
That's a saying, strike the iron while it's hot. That's a saying.
Oh, really? It's strike the iron.
We say strike, I think.
Yeah, better than beat.
Yeah.
But so anyways, it didn't happen. And, I saw that I had really no clue, And so I kind of, just gave up a little bit, but I always liked to play the guitar. I wanted, I wanted to play well, and that's always been my goal, to just like do something of quality, so, and then record, that's been always something. So I started recording videos, like for YouTube, just kind of early, honestly. That was a long time ago, that I started, maybe at least 10, 15 years ago. I don't remember, but something like this. And then I noticed, and that was really just for me. Plus, I don't really have views, like on YouTube, but then I saw people, invite me, I saw your video, and invite me to a concert or to a class or do something, and that kind of like, honestly, it's helped me a lot, having videos, on YouTube. I didn't know that it would, but it did, And it's not even that I'm a YouTuber. I really don't do YouTube, like I just put 2 videos a year or something. So this is not like, something I do. So, but even just that has helped me. And so I never really did anything, right to have a career, I would say. I just really tried to do something well, and just, if you stick with it for a long time, if year after year you produce something and you stay on the scene, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long, slow burn, and instead of just like, instant fame, which, like, is it going to last or not, so year after year, I'm still around, and, people, I've noticed, like, see this or listen to that, things that I put out, but I don't really, do it with like a goal of, like marketing and doing all this and that, like this is really something I'm not good at. I wish I was, and this year I kind of tried a little bit with my CD, but, I just kind of like, after a while, I just lose interest in all that stuff, and all I want to do is learn something or write something and play better. And, like, I'd rather spend time doing this. Life is short, So
that's exactly how I feel with my own career.
Yeah.
And I'm working on a second recording right now, and I love it. And I'm trying to think, okay, well, what do I want to do? Do I really want to press 500 CDs and mail them out and go sell them? Is that really what I want to do? Or should I just put it online?
Yeah.
People can buy it if they want or stream it for free.
Yeah.
And go play concerts, Because I hear you, like what, to what end? It's also different for me because, it's the same for you. You have a job teaching, so it's not like without that you would starve.
Yeah, but maybe that's why,
Yeah.
I wonder.
On to the subject of recording, you have a handful of recordings. Your most recent one is Suites. You did all from you said in a DM to me, A to Z by yourself.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because I'm at the A part. I actually just finished tracking a piece this morning.
Oh, very nice.
I'm almost done with the tracking. I have a couple more pieces to learn and then put on there, and then editing for me is the hard part.
The editing. Well, yeah.
What's the process like for you?
Well, I'm very bad at being a artistic director, so even if I have something in the first couple takes, I do another 20. So I've gotten better, through the years for sure. But like, I usually count that I need 10 times the length of a piece, basically, like to record something. If the piece is 2 minutes, I'll need 20 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. So recording can be a little bit frustrating. but it's a different, you know, when you practice, at least when I practice now, you know, like for the recording, it's a very different type of practicing where I try to have, you know, like everything very, very nice, you know, instead of when I practice for a concert where I just don't really, you know, like if you're on stage, nothing's, you know, nobody's going to hear that little thing, you know?
Yeah.
So once that's done, I usually try to be very prepared, you know, and then I start recording. I do, you know, I record through the thing. I like to stop as soon as I have something that I don't like. I don't do full takes because I hate editing like that. I hate taking one little thing, cutting, splicing, putting it, and you know, this takes way too long. So I stop exactly where I messed up, you know, and I do it again. And so when you know, I see the waveform, it's long, and then it's like lots of little things, you know, where I try, and it's long again. So I cut, I put it like this. So every time I cut, when I edit, it just moves like that, you know. So that's not too difficult. Usually what I do is I'll record for a few hours. Now I do it here in my office, so it's easy. I can just do one piece, but the 2 CDs before that I did in a church. So I had the church, you know, for like 3 hours each morning, let's say, you know, so I didn't do just one piece, right? I would record like a whole suite or a whole, you know, like big chunk. And in the afternoon, I would edit everything, right? Yeah. So my 2 last CDs, actually, before the suites, I had the church for 4 or 5 days, right? I do not like to just have 3 days. I've done 2 CDs before that. Well, the one with Naxos, one with Lama de Guido in Barcelona, and that was rushed. That was, you know, Lama de Guido, it was 2 days, you know. Wow. The first day I was jet lagged. I played like 2 hours. I was like, okay, let's stop. And the next day it was 7 hours. Can you imagine that? I just did the whole CD in one day, basically, you know.
It's too much.
It was horrible. And the CD is not good. I don't like it. So this is not something I recommend. So that's why I started doing them by myself. I was like, you know.
And doing it by yourself, I don't know what your workflow is like because the suites is, I mean, it's 3 suites, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah. Doing it by yourself kind of gives you the opportunity to say, at least for me, I'm not going to learn an hour's worth of rep and then force myself to record it in a week. Yeah. I'm going to learn one collection and take a week to record it.
Yeah.
And then that way it's going to be good.
If you have a setup that you can replicate, every time you learn something, you have it in your fingers, you just record it. Whether or not it's going to be part of a CD or anything like that, right. You record it, right? Yeah. It's there. And if the setup is always the same, you can actually put everything in a CD after a while. You master it the same way, so it kind of sounds, you know, like even. But you could have recorded that CD over a year, you know, or more.
What's your setup like?
I have 2 AKGs.
Yeah, I know a little bit because I DM'd you about it because it looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, these are amazing. You know, I've had these for 10 years. I think, something like this. And I've recorded everything I've done with these. Now I would, you know, like love a ribbon mic. I would, you know, but I sometimes, with these, you can record in any situation because you can switch the polarity, you know, and they are really great. So now you see they're in mid-side just because I started doing this a couple of weeks ago. This is really amazing. But usually I have them either like just like a pair of ears, you know, or XY. I put them in cardioid, super cardio, you know, depending on the room, you have to try, you know, like if it's close or not, you know, to the guitar. Right. I think with the mid-side, it'll be closer. I did some tests. It just sounds great. I'm not very happy with the last one, the suites that I did. I was about here, you know, and I was putting my chair here. I don't know. There's a blue dot on the floor.
It looks like you have a very live room.
Yeah, well, it's not so live. I don't know if it sounds live here, but I have some sound absorption thing, you know. So it's not bad. It's pretty dead actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I'll put you know, like drapes over the door and the window. Mm-hmm. So no, it's I want it as dead as possible, you know.
Right. The wood floors scare me.
Yeah, there's a carpet here.
I see the rug. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so are you going into Pro Tools or Logic or?
No, I'm doing Cubase.
Cubase.
I've been a Cubase guy since I was 16. You know.
Yeah.
Cubase SX3. Okay, so.
And are you mastering them yourself?
Yeah, I did the master myself on Ozone Isotope. You know. So I just met a guy and he was recommending me some mastering options. So for the next one, I might send it for mastering. You know, I have never really needed it. You know, for solo guitar, it's kind of. I mean, if it was an album of several instruments or like pop or things like that, where you really need but solo guitar, if I have 3 or 4 systems that I can listen to the recording on just to test it out. I have those JBLs that I like because they are very very clean, neutral. I had some Adams, which are too colored. I don't love mastering on those, but the JBLs are okay. I have a pair of headphones, like the Sony ones. They're a bit colored. It's a little bit difficult to tell, but I do everything. And then on Ozone, you can have a reference recording, So I actually used one of Manuel's recording, He sent me his last recording, and I really love the sound on it. It's beautiful. And so I had it as a reference, so you can check your master and how it sounds compared to something that's already mastered, So you input a track into Ozone and you can switch back and forth like this very easily.
Wonderful.
So that's great. So I did it like that. Yeah, but as I said, the sound is okay. It's not that amazing. I think it's because the mics were a bit too far. The placement was not. So I'll do that next one.
Right.
Mid-side. Yeah.
And you're playing a Smallman.
Yeah. Since 2006.
What I have found with Smallman guitars is that some of them are magic, pure magic.
And some of them are cardboard.
Yeah. And it's, that's no disrespect to Smallman because
no.
In terms of modern guitars, it's probably one of the pinnacles of guitar, one of the longest standing institutions of guitar, right? Unless you're going to go the traditional route. And the same thing happens with them. I mean, I was talking to, I think it was Scott, and he said about a Fleta that he owned that was one of his favorite guitars. And then he said that all the other ones sound the same to him. And Manuel, I mean, his Ruck is a legendary guitar. And I've heard a lot of Rucks that do not sound like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, and it also depends on the player, and there's a whole lot.
Yeah, and the way the guitar has been played too, that develops a lot.
Right.
It develops the guitar,
What inspired you to write a book?
That was because I didn't have access to anything like that. I wanted something a bit more cut to the chase. I didn't know a lot of this was a long time ago. Again, it's 2012, so it's 10 years ago. I was 25, I think. No, this was 2011, I think, published. Yeah, so I was 25, 26 when I wrote this. I was young, I didn't feel young, but I was very young, and so I have very, very clear opinions, it's well, I try to stay away from opinions, but I wonder if I was to rewrite the book now, I would probably add some things or change a few things. I'm not quite sure. I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's my plan to kind of update it a little bit. And it's always been my plan. But I think the literature at the time, I just maybe I didn't know it well enough. I'm not sure, because there are great books out there. I think in the 20th century, the guitar pedagogy has really. But I think the methods that the early 19th century methods that we have from Sor and Aguado writings, the Sor Cost method. So some writings by Cost. Giuliani didn't write really anything, but the set of studies that he has, you can really tell that these were great players, and the technique was a bit different. It's difficult to tell because the writing is obscure, So when they describe a movement, like, and you can't see it, it's and they describe it with words that are not scientific words, they describe parts of the hand. So it's difficult, like, so you can kind of like get into it a little bit, but kind of not, Also, they played a very different instrument, very different. Gut strings, you can play it the same way that we play today. So it's
5 strings.
Yeah. So it's difficult. You can't really judge those methods based on today's playing because it's completely different. But I think they started this trend of really amazing pedagogy on the guitar, and you got Ricardo Isnaola, with all the Guitarlessons books that are like, I understand, 20% of that book. It's so it's so complicated, but it's got some amazing information, You've got Abel Carlevaro and Pujol in the 20th century who just revolutionized this thing in very different ways, right? But if you, I think the main thing with guitar pedagogy, the way I see it now, is that if you actually take time to look at everything, and now with YouTube, you actually have like, this window into the world of like all the best players, right?
Right.
You can see that they all play in very different ways, look at the GFA finals,
Right.
You've got Topshi, you've got Kowalski and Lovro, like, and Ami, like people who just play so differently, all of them, but all play great, like, and all try, like, Topshi's positioning is already like a work of art, like it's very, very stable. It's got this thing on so even his arms are stable, his foot can be adjusted. This is, Kowalski plays like, on the other side with the guitar very close to the, a bit more straight, 90 degrees on the strings.
Right.
Can you tell one of the other plays better? I don't think so. All of those players are just amazing. It's a very strange thing to go through a competition, but they should all have won first place,
Absolutely. I loved the way that she played the Scarlatti. That was so awesome too.
So like
that's another thing. Maybe I should have brought it up during the competitions. It's like it's it's easy to criticize competitions because of that. But man, what that made me want to do is just listen to all 4. I want to go see all 4 of them in concert. Is what I want.
Yeah, of course.
But I agree with you. I went to go see Elliot Fisk recently, and I had never. This was my first time seeing him in person. He plays at a very different angle than a lot of other people. He's on top of the guitar. His arm is jacked up, but it does not stop him from doing anything.
Yeah. So, guitar technique is I think it's part of the instrument that it is so strangely built, and it doesn't fit the human body that you kind of have to find personal ways to adapt yourself,
Right. Do you use any bit of your book in your teaching nowadays, or do you find other?
Yes, no, I do, but this is the book. This is all the things that I think about during technique, So this is not really a method. Actually, it's not a method. It's just there's just a bit of exercises here and there, just if you need to work on that, like because I didn't think exercises were that useful. I think it's a lot more useful today, and actually I'm thinking about a book of exercises. I think technique is something I never even wanted to talk about, when I was younger. This was music only, and the music really is what makes you find technical ways. But now I see technique as a very, very essential thing, is just being in good shape, and because I get older, and that book, like when you're 25 and you practice 8 hours a day, you kind of don't have to think about it because that's what you do,
Right.
Today I don't have that much time to practice, so when I do practice, it needs to be like, I need technique. I need to, stretch my fingers to make them more agile, to work on synchronization, all those things that I never used to need to do, So I do that more, and I do it with my students too. We do a lot of technique. I give them more exercises, and I have this technique class at Peabody, so we do all that, right?
Right.
But then the book is also like the second part is how to practice, how to practice efficiently, and finding efficient ways to break down music. So this I do all the time. I try to really ingrain this into my students. I hope they they keep this a way of practicing that just is time is not time consuming, that is very efficient.
Yeah, you remind me of two quotes. One was from Bill Cannengeiser, who said, he said, now that this is an older interview, and he said, now that I have a child, I know the meaning of 1 hour, or he said something like that. And you don't have kids, is that correct?
No.
Okay, so I have a 3-year-old. He's almost 3. And like the days when I'm home with him, when I'm at work, it's different because then I can carve out time during the day. But if I'm home and I'm able to practice for an hour while he's awake, that hour is the most focused hour. There's my phone is away. The TV's off. The distractions are off. I got done whatever I needed to get done. And then the other thing you said reminded me of Barwaco. He said, what did he say? I want to practice technique so I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's get into the last topic that I have written down, which I've been dying to talk to you about. I put it at the end just for myself. Do you see a connect? Because I could give you a TED talk on the connection between classical guitar and watches. Do you see the similarity, or are you just why do you love watches so much? I'll share with you after why I do.
I loved watches before I started playing the guitar, so I don't know if there is something. I've always had a watch. My grandpa gave me my first watch. It was a little Swatch, when I was 6, I think, So I've always had that watch on my wrist. I don't know if there's a correlation. There are definitely a lot of people who love watches. So like you yourself, that are guitar players. So I don't know if there's something, but I also know a lot of people who are really great guitar players who don't like watches.
For me, I see a huge correlation between the design and execution and the functionality and also the art. Like you have a Seamaster on, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Seamaster, very much like a Smallman, has had a long history. Sometimes some models are overhyped, but when it's done perfectly, it's absolutely beautiful. There's an element of luxury to it. There's a whole lot of craftsmanship.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what. Yeah, I wonder if it's. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure, but maybe there's a poetry behind it too. Especially mechanical watches. An element of time. And we play with time. Music is time. So
yeah.
And something that just needs, kinetic. So energy. It lives because of your movement, and music is movement, and
right.
And without it, it stops, So,
what's your dream one watch? You only get one.
Only one watch.
Only one watch to pick out of the sky. You can keep all the ones in your collection, but one that you'll probably will never have. What would you want?
That's too hard, and I'm not even I'm not salivating at all the Audemars Piguet or
Yeah.
I no, that doesn't really do anything for me. If there was only one, it might be my Doxa,
Yeah.
because I'm so connected to it, it's I love the Seamaster too. I love that one as well. I don't know. I don't think that luxury equals for me. It doesn't really work this way. I don't have the desire to really just own that. It's very expensive watch, things like that.
Yeah.
Speedmaster would be great at some point. A professional. I've had 2 Speedmasters and they were nice. They were in the professional, but. I never bonded with them. I don't really love chronos, I love to see that arrow, slowly moving. This I just love, Yeah. So in the chrono, it's too small. I can't see it, and then.
Yeah. I think I want to be a chronograph guy, but I think at my heart I'm a dive watch guy.
Because
you put it on, you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
You can smack it into something and it's fine.
Well, yeah.
Oh, and it's with the Speedmaster, they're acrylic. The glass is acrylic, and it's like, you know. But I have a Speedmaster. I like it. Scott Tennant owned a couple Speedmasters, and we were talking about those, and he really likes the what's the one from Detroit? Shinola?
I don't know. Shinola?
Shinola, yeah.
Really?
Shinola, yeah. It's a kind of a bigger dial, and they're like luxury battery powered watches. They're nice. I'll send you some pictures of them.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, so thank you so much for your time. I'm going to hit you with the Lone Guitarist 5-question rapid fire, okay?
All right.
And you can answer these in long answer stories, or you can give me short answers, whatever fits for you, okay?
All right.
Okay. Little drum roll. Thomas Viloteau, question number 1. What was your best gig?
My best gig. Okay, this was in Denver, in a haunted church. I had slept.
You tell me you played the Usher Waltz.
No, I did not play the Usher Waltz. Yeah, that would have been nice. I mean, I don't know. People were saying it was haunted, right?
Okay.
And I had slept 2 hours in 24 hours. I was beat, man. I actually slept during the intermission. And this was the best concert I've played, you know. I think I was so out of it, you know. I actually had this experience where I was sitting in the audience and I was listening, and I could you know, kind of like model the music how I wanted it to sound like, you know. I was like, oh, this will be nice with the crescendo here, and then it just happened, you know. And I was so out of it that actually everything kind of worked, and the fingers, you know, there was so little reality in I don't know. That was great. Yeah.
You weren't thinking.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking at all. I was complete out of body experience, you know, and it was in a haunted church.
Is that? Have you ever read Inner Game of Music?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's a really good book.
Yeah.
Barry Green, and he talks about your self 1 and self 2. Your self 1 would be the one that was silenced by being so exhausted. The one that would go, oh, don't forget the crescendo here, and make sure to do this, and make sure to breathe here. And that was off. So what came out was just you. Question number 2 is, what was your worst gig? Sorry.
My worst gig was in Milwaukee. Sorry, Renee Izquierdo.
Sorry, Renee.
Sorry. So I have hyperthyroid, and I didn't know it at the time. And this was getting like to the worst of it, basically. And this was after right after I got the gig at Peabody, you know. So it was the first time I heard him announce me from the stage, and he was like the new teacher at Peabody, and I was like, oh fuck, you know. And then hyperthyroid. What happens? Your heartbeat is like very, very quick. You're very nervous, you know. And something I didn't know, you know, I couldn't control it. My hands started really shaking, and I played the whole concert like this, where I had like the worst nerves in my life. And I've been on medication for a year now. It's nothing too serious, you know, but it is a thing, you know, with myself that I have to kind of like check, you know, often. And so I didn't know it, you know. I had this thing that I didn't know, and that really just completely ate away at my my self-confidence, you know. So for many concerts after this, I was freaking out, you know, like, is this going to happen again, you know? It hasn't happened again, and I think I'm cured. I've gained my self-confidence again, but man, that was rough. Yeah, sorry, Renee. That was not good.
Renee just DM'd me today that he would do the show. So when
cool.
I connect with him, I'll play him this apology.
Okay.
Renee, another guitar player who no competitions, or at least I don't believe so. None of the big ones that I know of. And is doing just fine. But
I think, you know, this is something, there's really something to be said about excellent playing year after year, you know?
Yeah.
And just being around, you know?
Question number 3. What was the best advice you've ever received, music or non-music, and who gave it to you?
It would probably be advice from my parents, either my dad or my mom. I can't really remember the specific advice, but they raised me well. So I think, yeah, there's probably some advice there that I don't remember, but it's from my parents.
Shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Viloteau.
Yeah.
Question number 4. What never fails to inspire you?
Inspire me in what way? Just artistically or just life?
Life.
The stars, like if I can actually see the stars, that like it's not very often, that I take time. We are in Interlochen, me and Alexandra, and Interlochen, Michigan, and it's beautiful there. The sky is very there's no light pollution, so we could see the sky, and it's been a long time, but seeing the stars, it just puts everything in perspective. That's nice. Or being on the ocean, the sea, in the water, underwater, that's also very nice. Artistically, I would say, like watching amazing players, like the GFA finals, Kowalski for me was, and Topshi. Just beautiful. I had this, like I practice differently, so
yeah.
Yeah.
And then question number 5, what is your favorite non-guitar activity that you do right now? Like your favorite pastime or just something? To me, the word pastime is too I'm on my phone to pastime, right?
Yeah.
But what's your favorite non-guitar activity to engage in?
Non-phone. I garden quite a bit these days. I've been planting lots of flowers in the garden, in the yard. We have converted basically our backyard into a wildlife refuge, there's a National Wildlife Association thing. You can check it out, so we've got lots of birds and bees and butterflies and things like that. So
wow.
It's nice, we used to have a vegetable garden, and I used to really not be into that at all. I would just go and weed and harvest whatever, but I'd rather go to the store. So this was kind of overgrown with weeds. I just raked all the weeds, planted flowers. I'm done with this. I'm not taking care of this, and now you get flowers everywhere. It's beautiful.
So, gardening is probably another parallel to music. The more you spend time at it, the better you are. My wife's grandparents were from Italy. And they spent their whole lives just being farmers, Yeah. So they bought a house that is now in a city that's not so great anymore. But back in the day, it was more flourishing, and he had a huge backyard, and it was a giant garden. And by the time I went over, maybe 14 years ago when we first started dating, they would cook these meals, and they were just really good meals. And it took me a long time to realize it, I don't know how easy tomatoes are to grow, but it takes that many years of growing consistent food to be able to produce, because all the vegetables came from their garden. Yeah. And the meat came from Stop and Shop. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you'd like to plug?
No. That was great. That was a lot of fun.
That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you to my guest, Thomas Viloteau, and thank you to John Cesar at For the Classical Guitarist for hosting these episodes of Season 3. Next month, my guest will be Armenian-American classical guitarist Gohar Vardanyan. It's a great interview. I think you're going to love it. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to the channels below, and make sure to check out all the socials and the links in the comments below. And last but not least, leave a comment. I would love to hear what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'll see you next month.